Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a first look at an upcoming Tier 9 Soviet heavy tank, the Object Su-65T. This tank is unfortunately not particularly unique and is not going to be particularly anything special. However, its statistics kind of fall into the trend of tanks that we're likely to see in loot boxes. So, definitely worth watching to find out about what this tank's going to be about, because you could end up with it from loot boxes either this Christmas or potentially even next Christmas. So, let's have a look at this tank's statistics. Well, as you can see, it has this reverse auto loader thing, which the IS-3A has. So it isn't a particularly unique mechanic. It's a mechanic that we have seen an increasingly number of tanks, especially Soviet tanks, to have. So once again, nothing special there. But let's have a look at its statistics anyway. So it's going to have 390 alpha, standard. Its penetration is actually okay. 242 standard AP. 300 heat gold penetration. That's all right. And interestingly, it actually has decent HE penetration, 61 millimeters with 530 alpha. It's actually quite nice for the HE. Obviously, because it is an auto loader, you don't particularly ever want to be, loading HE. However, the opportunity is there if you ever find a FE405 or a Griller that you may want to just kill. Its intraclip reload is going to be 2.5 seconds, and it's going to have a 3-round autoloader. Its first shell is going to be 17 seconds to reload. So, for example, if you have a fully reloaded clip, you fire your first shell. To reload that one cyclically, it's 17 seconds. Then if you fire 1, 2, to then reload that second shell, it's going to be 14 seconds, and then 17 seconds to reload that other shell. And then if you fully clip out to reload that first shell in the clip, it's 11 seconds. So the way that the reverse autoloaders work is you want to have a full clip, fully clip out onto something, and then you just reload cyclically until there's an opportunity where you can't shoot anymore, and then naturally you will just reload 2 shots or 3 shots into your clip. But that's how you play the tank. You kind of clip all 3 shots out and then just reload cyclically on that one single shell, which takes 11 seconds to reload, which gives you a decent-ish DPM. And obviously with 2.5 seconds intraclip, that's not terrible. It gives you, I believe, off the top of my head, a clip potential of, I haven't got it written down on my maths, it's not good enough, but just less than 1200 off the top of my head, which is, it's pretty okay. Dispersion-wise, gun handling-wise, it's not great. 2.7 seconds aim time is pretty poor. 0.42 dispersion, once again, pretty poor. It's just very stereotypical of, Soviet heavies at Tier 9 and Tier 10. You kind of want to be as close to your opponents as possible, and even then your gun will feel quite derpy. But when it works, It actually has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is quite nice. So you will be able to work a ridgeline. Unfortunately, we can't have a look at this thing's armor model with that gun depression because it's not on tanks.gg yet. So we're just going to kind of have a look at this tank's image and kind of assume weak lower plate, pretty strong upper hull. It's got kind of a flat side armor kind of angle, so when you try and side scrape in this thing, this will be a weak point. It's got a cupola on top, which looks like it's got 2 cupolas, maybe even 3 cupolas on top. They will probably be weak. This might not be as weak as you initially think, this kind of side cupola. It looks like these cheeks may be quite weak with these kind of vision ports, but we can assume that the rest of the turret armor is going to be pretty strong. Probably a pretty strong upper hull as well. So weak lower plate, probably not great at side scraping because of this. 2 or 3 cupolas, yeah. So armor-wise, with its gun depression, it will probably be okay, but nothing special. Mobility-wise, 35 forward, 14 back. Quite slow, but 35 isn't the worst. It's manageable. You run a turbo on it, you're picking it up to 40. Okay, that's fine. Power to weight ratio is pretty poor, so it will struggle to maintain that speed uphill over boggier terrain. It has 1800 hit points, pretty standard for a Tier 9 Soviet heavy tank. And there we go. We have some of its statistics. So its turret armor is 300. Once again, we kind of predicted that. Probably going to have a weaker kind of either side of the mantlet, but probably only like 260-ish mil. Probably its strongest points are going to be directly on the mantlet and then kind of either side of those kind of viewports. Its hull armor is 130, but that I'm not quite sure about. Probably angled, it's probably going to be better. It has a decent side armor, so it may be able to side scrape if you can kind of hide that kind of flatter side bit. 380 meters view range, which again, not that relevant on a heavy tank, but 380 is okay. 390 is just a bit nicer. And it's just going to be running a standard Soviet heavy tank crew. So let's compare this tank now to another tier 9 Soviet heavy tank with an reverse auto reloading mechanic that we got in last year, so 2023's holiday ops boxes. The Object 752. So 265T compared to the 752. So this tank's DPM, if it is reloading fully, so it fires all 3 shots and then reloads all 3 shots, fires is low, 1376, which is not how you play this tank. This tank's DPM it's at its best when you fire all 3 shots and then you just reload that single shot cyclically. And I believe my maths is correct on this, but however, I am not great at maths, but I believe 2100 will be its DPM after you fire all 3 shots and then just reload cyclically on that first shot in there that auto reloads. So there you go. Interesting. Once again, pretty similar DPMs between the two. The alpha is identical. The clip size is identical. The interclip for the 265T is going to be better. 2.5 seconds compared to 3.2. That's quite noticeably better. The dispersion, pretty similar, but the 265T is going to be slightly worse. But, you know, when you get into the 0.4, the low 0.4s, they all feel pretty similar. Aim time-wise, the 265T is significantly better. 2.7 seconds compared to the 752's 3.26. The 752's gun is pretty poor, and the 265T is going to likely be pretty similar, but maybe slightly more snappy, if that makes sense, just because of its aim time. Mobility-wise, identical, apart from the 265T is slightly quicker in reverse. Pretty negligible at the end of the day. Both have identical gun depressions, -8 degrees. HP, the 265T has 50 more. Not particularly much more, but, you know, 50 is 50. View range, 380, they're both identical. But interestingly, penetration-wise, the 265T has better standard pen, but the 752 has better gold pen. So the standard pen for the 265T is 242, whereas the 752 is 240. And then it's 300 gold for the 265T, and then for the 752 it's 310. Obviously, that's the difference between gold pen being heat and APCR. I'd prefer 300 heat over 310 APCR. However, that's just my personal preference of play styles with how I play Soviet heavies. I try and get up as close personal, so I don't particularly feel like the APCR is as important, because you can't particularly snipe with it, which obviously one of the benefits of having APCR is faster shell velocity, because this thing's gun is so shit, you can't particularly snipe with it. There you go. But in general, I'm thinking this tank is okay. Nothing to write home about, right? It's going to be manageable. It's likely its statistics are going to change somewhat. Probably the statistics we're going to see change will be penetration values, the auto reload time, maybe the gun handling, and, you know, maybe some of the mobility values, especially like the specific power to weight. Obviously, because it is in the Supertest, and this is only its first iteration, so I don't quite know when we're going to be seeing this tank. I don't think we're going to see it in 2024. I feel like it's going to be in loot boxes in 2025. That would be my kind of feeling, but who knows, maybe we will see it in loot boxes this year, 2024 holiday ops. But I have a feeling, due to how late it has been added to the Supertest this year, only being added right at the start of October, I feel like it'd be a bit ambitious to see it this year. But yeah, I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be another one of those tier 9 heavies that you see and you kind of go, alright. A little bit annoying to play against. Its armor will probably be okay. Its gun will be a little bit scary if it's up close and personal, just because of its clip potential and then decentish DPM. But yeah, that's my opinions on this tank. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you think about it. Are you looking forward to seeing it? Have you played other similar tanks, and what do you think of them? Don't forget to check out the 2 videos on the screen, left and right, one you haven't seen before, and the playlist. Yeah, and I'll see you all in the next one.